Marian Breland Bailey was born December 2nd, 1920, and passed away September 25th, 2001. Bailey was an American psychologist studying applied animal psychology. Bailey studied under B.F. Skinner during her college years at University of Minnesota. She assisted Skinner with a project involving pigeons during World War II, teaching birds to guide bombs within the war. With her husband, Marian opened animal behavior enterprises in which they served others to train animals' behaviors as well as teach others how to train animals. Using operant conditioning, Marian worked with over 125 different animals' behaviors throughout her researching. Here we have a list of many articles that Marian had published. The first one is Misbehavior, a Case History. This article explains the research on the significance of the behaviors of different types of species. It emphasizes that each species exhibits different or unique behaviors, and therefore each one should be trained differently. The next important article is A View from Outside the Skinner Box. This article challenges Skinner to view the Bailey's research and their perception of the use of operant conditioning within their work. The next article is The Misbehavior of Organisms. Within this article, it talks about the failures that the Baileys endured with their research and why they believe those failures and challenges occurred. This article defines instincts of animals and how it affects those behaviors. The last article that is of importance is A Field of Animal Psychology. This article explains the beginnings of the Baileys' research and how they were training animals with operant conditioning as well as teaching how to train animals. The Baileys also had many unpublished articles due to their lack of popularity within the research field, and they also experienced monetary issues, as well as they focused on their business and their specific training of their animals and their shows. Some of the research that the Baileys found was they used operant conditioning to train their animals and their behaviors. They concluded that instincts and different types of species play a role within teaching behaviors. They talk a lot about conditioned behaviors versus unconditioned behaviors and how that impacts how you train an animal. They also modified the operant conditioning procedure by using secondary reinforcement. The Baileys conducted their research in open spaces and different environments, not in a lab setting, which was unusual during the time that they were researching. If I were to interview the Baileys, I would ask them many different questions about their opinions and perceptions as well as about their work. First, I would ask, how would you find out an animal's instincts if not previously known to be able to condition them? How were your failures taken by the community and other psychologists? And how did they feel about it? Did you have any setbacks other than your failed experiments? How big of a role did money play during this time of research? Was your work with the, quote, mentally retarded similar to your work with animals in the sense of their behaviors? Do you think if you had Skinner's full support with your research, you would have gained more within your personal research? What was your favorite animal to train and why? What were some of the skills you would teach the animals? Why do you believe your research is important to the applied behavioral analysis field? What was it like working in the war and with Skinner? Being a woman, do you believe that impacted your ability to work within this field? The Baileys' work continues to be important and impactful within the applied behavioral analysis field. The Baileys were able to modify the operant conditioning method through the use of secondary reinforcers. They were able to use whistles and clickers to create a secondary reinforcer that signals the animals to respond to the stimulus. Another impact that widely influenced the behavioral field was instinctive drift. Instinctive drift is when a conditioned animal begins to change their behaviors and drift back into their original instincts. For example, a chicken scratching at the ground to find food changes its conditioned behavior and went back to scratching at the ground. Another important impact was the research done by Marian Breland Bailey in other environments besides a lab setting. She was able to put the animals in an open setting and not a controlled setting to be able to have them generalize these behaviors within different environments. Lastly, another impact within the behavioral field is, I believe it was an animal training turning point. The Baileys use operant conditioning to create a company that teaches others how to train animals and trains over a variety of different species. The Baileys also are famous for training the first director of SeaWorld, which I believed was pretty cool and important to know that they had that impact on one of the biggest aquariums or well-known aquariums in the world. Through their research, the Baileys found many discrepancies within the original operant conditioning procedure, and they modified it to continue to influence the behavioral field. I have also included all of my different sources that I used for this presentation, as well as included my URLs for all of the pictures that were used. Thank you for listening to my presentation.